Good morning, everybody, or I should say good evening. This is Roberto. Welcome to Global Chat. I am in San Francisco right now, and we are fortunate to have Justin, Ben, and Bugai in Ukraine. So let's just get started. Welcome. Welcome to Global Chat.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
So I'm going to start with Ben. I think I'll just go around the group if that's okay. Ben, when did you get to Ukraine and what's going on there from your perspective?
Well, I just arrived early this morning on the overnight train from Lviv, sleeper train, had a nice rest after being in the air for 20 hours from Denver. And there was sirens immediately, 3 or 4 every 20 minutes this morning. And apparently last night while I was on the train, there was significant bombings, missiles and drones in Kyiv.
In Kyiv, and you're in Kyiv right now.
We're in Kyiv, yeah, central Kyiv, yeah. So, but other than the school children, very few people are running to the shelters, very few. Mostly the school children, the teachers have to send them. I was at an elementary school this morning, 2 different sets of sirens. And it's interesting, the kids are laughing and running and having fun all the way to and from the shelter. So I'm sure they're traumatized, but they're not hysterical about the air raid sirens.
So it's part of the part of their routine by now.
Yeah. And there have been, according to the principal that I met with this morning, there have been some pretty close fallouts from the attacks. Pieces of drones, a missile hit a couple of kilometers away. Pieces of drones they had land in their schoolyard.
Was that in Lviv?
In Kyiv.
In Kyiv.
In Kyiv.
Yeah. So how do things seem to you compared with the last time you were there? And when was the last time you were there? A few months ago?
Oh, January. It's the longest since the war began in
January.
2022. It's been,
right. And this is
March. It was the longest that I've not been in
September,
Ukraine.
end of September.
5 months. 5 months, yeah. I can't see any difference. I think the people are more busy for some reason. Traffic is more dense. This hotel is full, when normally it's not, that I stay at. So
okay.
Yeah. Commerce is moving right along. But I am seeing fatigue in the soldiers. Bugai, for one, I can see it in his eyes. 2.5 years is a long time to be a frontline fighter, even with breaks. They get significant breaks, but still, they're always on alert. And their equipment, I've heard from Justin, that it's getting worn out, the personal equipment that they're using. So Justin is translating.
I understand. Yes. Yes.
So
all right. Let's get to our new guest, new for me, Bugai. Welcome, Bugai, to the program.
Thank you.
Bugai is a soldier in the Ukrainian army and is stationed at the front line. Is that correct?
Так, ти військовий в українській армії і уточнює, де саме ти дислоковуєшся і, скажімо так, на самому передку.
Ну да, так, конечно. Я український
воєнний. So, in general, yes, at the very front line, the last dislocation point for him was Kursk region. The previous dislocation, major dislocation points were in Kharkiv region. And in general, during the past couple of years, his life was basically all around the Donbass region.
Donetsk
in particular.
So you've been pretty busy.
Довольно напряженный и занятой график у него.
Ну, это работа. Это
A lot
служба.
of work.
Work, it's service.
Is he speaking Russian?
Yes.
Okay, I thought so, but I'm never sure. I always ask. Bugay, where are you from?
Откуда ты сам родом?
Родом из Харькова. Ну,
Yeah, inherently he's from Kharkiv, but for the last 10 years he's been living in Lviv. His wife, his child, and from recently his mother is also are also located in Lviv. But yeah, as he previously put, during several past years, he's been in a big trip to the east of Ukraine.
And Bugay, how old are you, if I may ask?
Сколько тебе лет, если можно спросить?
34.
34.
34. So you've been in the army for 2.5
Я
years.
живой.
And he's still alive, he might add.
And
Yeah.
still
And still alive.
За
Yeah.
последние 2,5 года это удивительно еще.
recall war hero.
Sorry, what we were asking?
He's been in the army for 2.5 years.
Yeah. He just confirmed.
So can you tell us, I mean, obviously we're reading the news every day, but we're not at the front line. What is it like a typical day at the front line for you?
Он говорит, что, ну, все мы видим по
First
новостям,
of all, I'm sorry. I want to say thank you, spasiba, for all of your work and bravery. I really appreciate that. And of course, we all do. So that needs to go without saying. So thank you so much for what you're doing.
Да, перво-наперво говорит спасибо за службу, за все, что ты делаешь. Это огромная вещь и для него, и для его народа. Вопрос, который он ставил, все мы видим по новостям, что происходит, ну, там, на передке, в общем Украине. Какой обычный день военного?
А его нету. Так его нету. Ты можешь...
Yeah, so in simple terms, there is no kind of routine day for a modern Ukrainian soldier. So every day is a new task. You might be called on in the morning, in the early morning, in the early night, in the early day. But basically, when you wake up in the morning, the first thing you just make sure that your legs and arms are in place. You thank God for still being alive, and then you just carry on with the ongoing tasks and wherever the war has to require from you.
Do you have to?
Утром начинается так. Кофе, это связь с родными.
The morning starts with coffee, with the communication with the family.
Пару минут
A
посмотреть.
couple of minutes to look through all the news around the world in Ukraine.
Дальше подтягивание экипировки, как мы называем, это поправить там где-то плечи там на
Then make sure the
бронежилете.
equipment is in place.
Перекинуть там, если это дождь, то ты подготавливаешь там себе вещи, курточки там.
If it's raining, then you get a
Рюкзак
separate
пакуешь
jacket,
себе.
breaking everything
Потому
necessary.
что неизвестно
Because you
завтра.
never know when your next task is gonna start and what it's gonna be like.
Поэтому мы готовы всегда. Утром встал, получается, там.
That's why from the early morning they're
Наложил рюкзак
getting
себе,
fully prepared for everything.
подготовил, получается.
Yeah,
себе
usually
там,
they get provision like food
сникерсы.
food supply for a couple of days ahead, some snacks, sneakers, for example.
Проверяешь, допустим, это на
Checking on
заряжаешь.
everything that has to be charged, for example, tablets,
Зарядные
Phones.
станции заряжаешь. Это пауэрбанки, это экофло.
power banks, EcoFlows, power stations.
Смотришь на, да, допустим, чтобы у тебя была ночник работал, там проверяешь его, чистить, потому что после каждой задачи он будет грязный.
Making sure, for example, such devices as a night vision device is properly operating, especially when you're getting prepared for a night.
Это такое главное. Потом подходит уровень
Those are the main things.
боекомплекты.
The next level is armory basically.
Ти витаскуєш кожний магазин
You get
И-
every magazine.
и смотришь, сколько там наличия.
I'm sorry, every magazine?
Yeah, like
Ammunition,
ammunition magazines. Clips, yeah. If necessary, you load up as much as many as you need, as many rounds as you need, and then you're making sure that in every pocket you have
Потом, ты уже проверяешь,
extra 30 bullet packages.
Берешь гранат, ты смотришь на чеку, чтобы
Checking grenades.
чтобы все на месте было, чтобы оно было целое.
Checking the
Заряжаешь
operating
его
them,
так само. Вот.
making it battle prepared.
Ну и перед каждой задачей надо сходить хорошо в туалет.
And
Потому
for
что это очень
every
неудобно.
task, you have to go to bathroom always before every operation, even if you don't want to.
That's me.
Все. Дальше, если мы едем на задачу, первые задачи у меня были, конечно, такие страшные. Сейчас это уже как-то нормально.
After that, it depends very much on the exact operation and task that he has. His very first operations were pretty scary because he did not know what to expect. Right now, it's well bearable within the adequate limits for him.
Проверяю, допустим, если есть машина, если ее не взорвали, то проверяю, чтобы машина наличие было дизеля,
For
чтобы машины
example, if you
были
have
не
a car
спущенные.
and it's not exploded by the morning, you check on whether it has enough fuel, all the technical details, etc.
Колеса закачаны, это самое главное. Ну и, может быть, это так и странно.
Maybe it's a strange thing, but they have to make sure if you're talking about the car that the keys are operational and that they have some sort of special tape for tires, because in around every area that they travel with the car, there's a big chance that, for example, a tire could blow up for whatever reason. It could be explosion device or some sharp
metal fabrics.
yeah, metal.
Всё, потом уже, когда задача есть, командир берет планшет.
Yeah, after that, they receive a certain task, and usually their commanders have a separate tablet or with a special application called Krapiva. I'm not sure how it's like not a flower, but in any case, it's a separate military application, mobile application, according to which the commanders are making the route for the soldiers. It works without GPS. It operates purely on coordinates.
When they go on patrol, it's patrols they take.
I hope none of this is top secret.
Трек. Мы называем это трек.
They call it a trek.
Trek,
Трек.
trek,
Трек.
Trek, trek, yeah,
Uh-huh.
Marшрут.
patrol, yeah.
Is this, Ben, is this all known to people? This is not secret information?
No, this is common. Every infantry soldier in the world will understand exactly what he does.
Okay, because this is not exactly,
This is infantry.
Все знают.
this is,
Крапива, все знают ее, просто ее никто не сломает, потому что если в крапиву
The reason this is not a secret information, because, for example, this application that we are talking about, it cannot be broken. Basically, it cannot be hacked because there are certain preconditions according to which the application deletes itself from a device if it suspects anything inappropriate.
But Bob, to answer your question, this preparation is infantry 101. You know, have to get ready for the day.
are you saying that's really basic and goes all the way back?
Basic preparation to go on patrols. And
Different.
patrols, 90% of what an infantry person, 90% of the time, nothing happens on patrol, but that 10%, you gotta be prepared. Yeah.
But
So
this is, of course, with different technology, updated technology.
a little bit, but probably not much different than World War II patrols, infantry
Well, he
preparation.
has a cell phone, Alexander.
And he can talk to home every day. Hey,
Yeah,
that's
so that
really-
was a question I had. Is this from Elon Musk's
Oh,
allowance for satellites.
yeah, Starlink. They
Yes.
use that. That's exactly what you just talked about, the technology. So previously they had to use walkie-talkies for their operation, etc., connecting. Before every task they had to, that was a separate procedure to connect with walkie-talkies and coordinate the moves. Right now you have Starlink. It operates everywhere basically because obviously the internet comes from the satellite, and that allows every soldier to have a separate chat on a separate messenger where they communicate and coordinate all of their, basically most of their moves right there.
And it cannot be hacked.
И она не может быть взломана, этот чат.
Нет, нет, он запаролен, он не может взломать. Ну, есть такой сигнал. В WhatsApp есть такие самоопределенные программы, которые они не могут сломать. Потому что ты создаешь группу как-то по-тупому называешь, там, не знаю, там, сиськи, еще какие-то там такими пошлыми словами, чтобы, ну, это так само, как и в Америке, так само делают.
Yeah, there are several reasons it cannot be hacked. First of all, they use the most, well, in today's world, most secured messenger called Signal. Secondly,
I use Signal.
yeah,
Sorry.
and secondly, there are certain additional programs which additionally protect the chats that they're using. Thirdly, they create those chats in the ways that are mostly unpredictable. For example, naming them Boobs as the example that he provided, or other inappropriate names, in order for the enemy not to be even close to identifying how the chats that they are using for their military communications is used.
Wow.
And many other techniques to.
What was the word? What was the inappropriate word? I missed it.
Boobs?
Boobs,
Boobs.
boobs.
Oh,
Это старая тема НАТО.
sounds like army
It's
talk.
all NATO system.
Sounds like army talk.
Yeah, if 20 years ago every such chat would be called Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, today it's all inappropriate.
Well, it depends. It's appropriate for them. Maybe
И
not
перед тем,
my
когда
middle school
Да.
students.
Это пристойно для вас.
да. Противнику, прежде чем надо сломать его, надо найти эту группу, чтобы ее сломать.
Yeah, and basically before the chat and the group can be hacked, they first need to identify how it's named.
Ну, если и такое бывает.
Yeah, but of course there are exceptions, and in the case, for example, if one of the soldiers in the chat goes missing, especially if we're talking about the territories which are in the gray zone, for example, and you never know whether he was captured or he's still there, etc. And there are risks that the devices that he carried can be taken in the enemy's hands. They make sure that first to delete this person from the chat, and secondly, everything that is related to him, in order to protect him in the first place and his family, and everything, all the information that he had on his devices.
That gets amazingly complicated.
And highly risky. Did
Yeah.
you hear what he said and his family?
Yeah.
To protect them if he got captured or they got his ID. Because as you know, the Russians are not above infiltrating and going after family members of the fighters.
Yes. This is another reason why we're not going to use the video with this.
Да, это примечательно, что ты сказал про семью
Not
тоже.
doing that.
Говорит, что россияне не будут разбирать и там использовать потом семью.
Сразу объясню, у россиян нету ни чести.
Yeah, so he would like to comment on what Ben just said. The Russians, they do not have neither dignity nor conscience, conscience, nor
Достоинство. они, может, если у вас там есть видео, они, может, наших пленных уничтожать
Not
публично,
worldliness.
отрезают нашу
What's the word?
голову,
Is it
убивают
worldliness?
там
That's good word.
всякими там
Yeah.
мучительными
Nor
способами.
worldliness. So,
Поэтому я
for
россиян
example,
вижу,
if
и у них нету этой
a
хитрости,
Russian
который
soldier dies,
говорил такой,
the Ukrainian
чеченский
soldiers
президент,
will carefully
в
pack him
2009 году,
and
Дудаев.
transfer
У них
to the
реально
hands
чести,
of Red Crescent,
совести,
and then it's gonna be either, I don't know, exchanged
A transfer.
yeah, for the body of Ukrainian soldiers, etc. But what Russians do, they, as you may know from the news, cut the heads of Ukrainian soldiers or otherwise kill them in very inappropriate and barbaric ways, and that which is why Alexander hates Russians with his whole heart, and he quoted. So they do
Johar.
not have, yeah, Johar
Dudayev.
Dudayev, the former Chechnya president, who said exactly this, that Russians do not have neither dignity nor conscience nor
Ну, они там
Humanity.
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 Yeah.
When they cut the heads off, you're talking about off the dead bodies?
Both. Он спрашивает, отрезают головы именно мертвых тел?
Нет, они, есть же видео гуляют, когда они выставляют это, когда с наших солдат, когда парень 20 лет, вот было видео гуляло, 20 лет, и они публично живого отрезали голову.
Yeah, there were many cases, unfortunately, which were publicly shared by them and circulated throughout the internet of them cutting of live soldiers. Recently, there was a 20-something-year-old soldier who's publicly they cut his head off.
Есть у нас такой протокол, если ты видишь русского солдата обезоруженного, значит, ты ему должен помочь.
Yeah, and he provided a comparison example. So Ukrainian soldiers and his squad in particular, they have protocols. Protocols of, for example, if they see a Russian soldier unarmed, if it's in a distance, Alexander personally, in some cases, sent a drone with, for example, a bottle of water with a sticker on it, like follow the drone in order for this soldier to voluntarily come to Ukrainian soldiers to be captured and not killed. There were cases that some other means of non-verbal communication, like using the flashlights or
И за слово «Слава Украине» получается 5 солдатов, 5 русских солдатов
like
выставили
fire,
и высадили там по всему
Lighter.
магазину.
lighters, or whatever other means of communication without engaging in direct contact.
For the Ukrainian army to let the Russian soldiers know that they can give themselves up.
Yeah, voluntarily, without any restraint. On the other hand, Alexander made an example of unarmed Ukrainian soldier standing on his own land, on the Ukrainian land, and for saying, you probably heard this on the news maybe half a year ago, for saying the words "Slava Ukraini," glory to Ukraine. His head, they just pointed 5 guns at him and shot simultaneously. So that's the contrast between Ukrainian and Russian soldiers.
There's another contrast that you should hear about, Bob, that I just heard about,
Yes.
of examples of Ukrainian soldiers that have invaded Russia in the Kursk region successfully, and their interaction with civilians as compared to the Russian soldiers' interaction with Ukrainian citizens when they invaded Ukraine. I think this would be very interesting to your audience.
Yeah, I was just going to get to that about Kursk.
Okay.
So, Alexander, you've seen some of the fighting going on in Kursk?
Он спрашивает про Курскую операцию. Ты, был вовлечен в
Yes.
Да,
военные действия.
What is
For
your
1.5 months.
И через неделю обратно еду.
and in a week he is gonna go.
Gonna go back.
Yeah, gonna go.
So for 6 weeks, he was there, and now he's back for rest. He's going back in a week to the
Wow.
front, to the Kursk.
What is your impression of the reactions? I'm not talking about the fighting now, but the reactions of the civilian population there. How are they reacting to having the Ukrainian soldiers come in?
Спрашивает про реакцию мирного населения. Сейчас не будем говорить про военные действия. Как цивильные это
Мирные ну, как объяснить мирные? Мирные получают себе работу, как и работают.
So there are basically three categories of people. First one that continues business as usual, roughly speaking, and they understand that Russians will not give them anything better, and they understand the situation in Ukraine, and they simply usually thank the Ukrainian soldiers for their humanity and all the assistance that they're trying to provide. Then the second category is about some of the civilians actually came to Ukraine to get to safe places, safer places. And some, the third category, of course, left for Russia after the military basically cleaned up, as they call it, certain areas in the Kursk region.
Мы покупали, ну я лично покупал, когда я был в Сумах, это украинский регион, я покупал хлеб. Некоторые там мужики, но я этого не покупал, потому что я не люблю это, сигареты. И когда ехал при первом встречном гражданском, я просто выносил хлеб и воду. Воду у нас есть в милитарном.
Yeah, so he basically provides an example of himself, how he personally conducts, and one of the examples is that every time that he comes from Sumy region, the Ukrainian region, he gets roughly 1,000 hryvnias worth of water and bread. Because obviously they have something to eat out there in the Kursk region, the civilian population, but as they plundered all the shops, etc., they're having currently hard time of getting enough of water and bread. So that's every time he gets there, he grabs 10 to 30 pieces of bread and gives to any random and any civilian that he encounters such provisions. And one of the exceptions that he does not bring, even at the request of the civilians, is cigarettes. Firstly, because they're expensive here in Ukraine, and secondly, well, it's
Big money.
Yeah.
Papyrosa schaden deine Gesundheit.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Ein Moment.
cigarettes are bad for your health.
Хлеб.
Yes, there are videos of how he shares
Can you
bread.
show that to the screen?
Yeah, we'll send it over to you.
Я потом скину.
Yeah, no, put it to the screen
Oh,
now.
Oh, it's gonna be bad news.
oh wow.
Those are Russian women. No,
Those are Russian civilians
in Kursk.
in Kursk.
Второй. Вот я сейчас выхожу, сзади человек снимаю, а я выхожу, раздаю хлеб, и люди просто сигареты. Сейчас
Yeah,
буду переводить.
the guy is filming him from behind, and
Ukrainian soldier.
this is Alexander, and he's gonna come out and
Alexander with the helmet.
Не, я вам просто показал.
no, outside,
He's
Oh,
outside.
outside the car.
given the bread.
Nice.
So this is
Yeah,
proof.
asking for cigarettes.
This is
Yeah.
proof. Oh, they're asking for cigarettes?
Yeah.
Я, он просит
Oh.
сигареты.
They want cigarettes, of course.
Wow.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for sharing
Can
that.
I ask? Can I ask?
Alexander, one second. Are you worried about saboteurs, or is that not the issue?
Спрашивают, боитесь ли каких-то саботажников? Или
Там?
это- Да. Или это не
Нет.
проблема?
Да.
В России люди зашуганные. у них нет своего мнения, и они всегда, получается,
The basic
боятся
thing is that
выше.
Russians
Это
are very
вроде
scared.
губернатор,
They're a very scared
там,
nation in the
командир
first place,
полиции района какого-то,
in
они
that
за что
period,
кого-то
those
собраться,
civilians
они не готовы,
are.
потому что они всегда
So
подходят к
he
нам,
just
говорят,
named several
вы
examples
когда
of
уедете,
not
нам,
even
ну, мы же
regular
враги в
people, but
России. Вы когда
the
уедете, мы
heads
освободим,
of
получается,
the
нам, и,
administration,
ну,
heads
типа,
of
для
police
публичности нас
department,
убили.
etc. They're very
Вот.
scared
Люди там очень сильно
Of
зашуганы. Вот и все, там ничего не надо.
of having their own opinion and somehow making big moves, which, for example, Ukrainians were able to do. And the story of that we discussed with Bob of Pablo, the tank destroyed. The Russians are
They're
by
scared.
far not, mostly not capable of doing anything like that. And
Uh-huh.
another
Are
thing
they,
that
are they,
was under, yeah.
sorry, Justin. Are they scared that there will be, if Kursk gets back into Russian hands,
That's the
there
next
will be
thing.
repercussions
Yeah,
from
yeah.
Putin
They
and
basically
government?
are scared of being killed by Russians just for
Propaganda.
publicity when it goes back to Russian control.
It's crazy. I mean, it's a terrible situation to be in.
Yeah.
Alexander, I know you're not a politician. I'm just asking your opinion. Do you think that going into Kursk is helping the war effort for you guys, and how so?
Он спрашивает, ну, понятно, что ты не политик и не все такое, но считаешь ли ты, что вот эта Курская операция, она помогла приблизить
Да,
победу?
да.
Yeah, the main thing, I'm just starting from the back. The main thing is that they not, well, legally they occupied, but de facto they demilitarized this area, and this further they stretched out the Russian soldiers of a lot of frontline distance, and the concentration of Russian soldiers became very scarce from the point that they entered Kursk region, and so he started with saying that such
Мы ж не оккупировали территорию, мы ее
such highly destructive bombs from
самое главное.
From the planes, so they're called in Ukrainian керовані авіаційні бомби.
Просто авиабомба.
Aviation bombs, basically. And они ж не могут быть ППОшками сбиты вообще.
Не.
Yeah, they cannot be, for example, be destroyed by
Они ж не летят, они просто...
They cannot be intercepted, basically, in any way. It's impossible.
Yeah.
And for example, this is the type of bombs that is currently being used on Kharkiv very extensively. But the difference in the Kursk region is that Russians do not use it on their own territory. So that also helps, and it deters them from using that on those areas, and be very careful.
Ну и после Курской операции, получается, Россия...
Yeah, so basically it's a bargaining chip, and after the Kursk invasion, the Russians first came into contact and started asking around about some kind of agreement with Ukraine. So that's also a big reason for the invasion.
So you believe that the Kursk incursion is helping with the general war strategy for Ukraine?
Ну, то, что Курское вторжение, короче, помогает общей ситуации военной, стратегически.
Да, и Путин сейчас боится какие-то делать действия, потому что у его...
Yeah, so Putin is very scared right now because because of the, first of all, political ratings are plummeting, and that would be the cause for some kind of uprisings or some kind of discontent from both civilians and the military, because the military are now thinking, well, at first this man wanted us to come by foot into Kiev, and right now we have to defend something that was taken from Russia in the background, roughly speaking.
Interesting.
Good
Oh.
point.
И просто он сейчас не замечает, он сейчас не может из-за того, что у него упал контроль над Курским регионом. И
Yeah, but by Russian rules, Putin would have to begin basically the martial law that we have in Ukraine. He would also have to do this because of the Kursk incursion, but he does not do this, and he might not realize this right now, but the fact that he does not control the situation and does not control those territories, it will have huge repercussions also afterwards.
Hope so.
It's like one big chess game of trying to
Oh, yeah.
figure out where goes where. And
Если
now.
бы война у него,
With blood.
да,
Yeah.
ход конем.
Yeah.
Right.
Check. How do you call this? Checkmate.
Checkmate.
А потом дамка.
I have a couple more questions for you, Alexander, but I just want to ask you this. A lot of times people in the West are asking about Russia and Russians, and if you differentiate good Russians from bad Russians and that sort of thing. If and when Putin leaves and a new government takes over, hopefully making peace with Ukraine, do you feel like you could live in some kind of peaceful way with the Russians?
Ну, там на долгую перспективу вопрос по поводу хороших, плохих русских и про, веришь ли ты, что когда там Путина уже не будет через много лет, сможешь ли ты вообще в каком-либо хорошем виде поддерживать отношения с Россией?
Нет. Нет. Я видел, что, переведи ему, я видел, что они делали на
Yeah, so the simple answer is no. He will not have any positive attitude toward Russians because basically because he saw everything that he sees on the front line of what they're capable of, and he just mentioned a couple of examples. And one example from that they learned from hearing on their walkie-talkies that they had access to. One example is one Russian was watching through a thermal imager, and he saw some woman that was blocking the view, and this guy got an order to basically eliminate the obstacle. And the next morning they used an armored vehicle just to make this obstacle, so to speak, disappear physically.
That was a
And-
Ukrainian woman.
Yeah, and that's just that shows one of the millions of examples of
Yeah.
why this is what they enjoy doing, and this is in their nature, and that's why he will never ever be in contact with them.
And Bob, I'd like to say that feeling of total contempt is 100%. I've not spoken to one single Ukrainian who says, after the war is over, a few years, we can integrate ourselves again. Not this generation, maybe not
It's
even the next.
understandable.
I think it would be similar to asking an American, especially after what happened at the airport in Afghanistan, how would you like to have Taliban as your neighbors? Pretty similar.
Mhm.
Pretty similar, or ISIS, down the block. That's not going to happen in America anytime soon.
Understandable.
Если посмотреть историю, то Россия с кем-то воюет. Она не может построить у себя дом, извините.
Yeah, historically speaking, Russia has always been in war. And he mentioned several examples: Chechnya, Abkhazia, Georgia, even in the conflict of Serbia and Kosovo, the way it carried out, the Russians were responsible for part of the propaganda, and when they came also into Serbia with the Russian peace, as they call it,
Албания.
they just made for example, Kosovo and Albania in contrast, etc. And in Syria in 2017, they
Yes.
also bombed and killed innocent civilians out there, and
Yes.
that's what is there in their nature, and in the Kursk region that
Вот
they
класс.
covered, they simply do not have even resources for themselves because they spent all of that for conducting wars. So toilets, bathrooms, etc. It's horrible what they saw out there, and in what conditions Russians lived out there.
Yeah, I can imagine. So we've been going for almost an hour. I think I'm gonna start wrapping things up by asking one last question to each of you. Okay, and the question is this:
Просто каждому из нас.
what do we have enough of, and what do we need more of? What do we need help with? And I'm gonna start with Justin. What do we have enough of in Ukraine, and what do we need help with? I know Zelensky was always talking about closing the skies, close the skies. I haven't heard that term in a while, but
Well, what do we have enough of? I think we still have enough of hope and the willpower and determination. So all these are, of course, morale things and not physical, because I think what Zelensky tells at the UN General Assembly and all around the countries that he visits to ask for military and economic assistance, financial assistance is very true, because we're halfway prepared for winter. We are halfway prepared for counteroffensive on the front line, and we are halfway even are capable of providing for civilians like elderly people, the people who are internally displaced, even the people outside of Ukraine who were, as we call it, in international law, externally displaced, externally forcibly displaced people. And for example, yesterday, I think it was yesterday in Poland, there was a decision made by the government to stop financing Ukrainians out there. What they had been doing before, simply
Refugees.
yeah, refugees. And that is also a problem for Ukraine, obviously, because there's going to be an influx again into Ukraine. And I think those are the things that we don't have enough, that's for sure. But on the other hand, as I was saying, we have the morale, and the only thing we require from our partners, including the United States, is to provide with the material part, and the non-material part will take care of itself if we're talking about the Ukrainian spirit and determination.
Thank you very much. Ben, I'm going to ask you the same question.
Well, this is, I've been thinking about this for 2.5 years, as you know, Bob. I've discussed it with you.
Yes.
I feel that any country which is on the brink of extermination, as is Ukraine, and not existing as a separate country, would probably best to have a real mobilization, not part by part. They're working towards that now. I think the Ukrainians need an army 5 times bigger than it is, and that means 5 times more losses. And I believe that the only way to defeat and to prevail is to march, as they've done in Kursk, deeper and deeper into Russia. And they had opportunities in the very early days of the war, when the Russians were disorganized, thought they would just skip into Kyiv and take over the country within days, and were pushed back mightily. That pushback should have kept going. should have not stopped. Second opportunity was in Kherson in that October offensive, very successful, pushed the Russians back, recaptured a lot of territory and stopped, thereby letting the Russians build all their defenses, retrain their soldiers. That could have gone across the border to the east. So, and thirdly, and again, it's asking for a lot more loss of lives of Ukrainian fighters by having a greater army and in just sheer numbers overpowering the Russians on the east. There needs to be more of a backbone in the West to not inhibit the Ukrainians from using whatever weapons, however they wish to use them, and not falling for Putin's threats of use of nuclear weapons. Hopefully, and I'm keeping in the back of my mind that our top brass in the West, our strategists, have weapons aimed at all of the nuclear weapons in Russia, so that even before they would have a chance to use them, they would be destroyed. Hopefully, we've not let that opportunity go by with our advanced technology. Because I think that's what it's going to take. I think that if not, the alternative is to cede the lands to Russia that have already been taken by Russia and try to get along with 3/4 of a country for a while until he decides to take the rest.
All right, thank you, Ben. Alexander, I'm going to ask you, the last one, to answer this question. What do you have enough of, and what do you need help with?
Спрашивает, тот вопрос, который он нам задавал, чего у нас достаточно и что мы потребуем.
Достаточно с чего это? Что это именно?
Ну, в Украине.
Ракеты там.
В целом.
А, в целом.
Ну, я, например, говорил за там, это же не только про фронт, это еще и там про поддержку ВПО и про, короче, ну, то, чего мы имеем достаточно, это типа там уверенности и в завтрашнем дне, хотя, казалось бы, и вера в победу. И то, что потребуем, це то, що там Зеленський постоянно просить в Штатах и так далее, оружие и так далее.
Ну, понятно, ну, что то Зеленский там, что наш президент.
That speech. So Alexander started off with saying, with confirming what I previously said on the material side, and the fact all those things that Zelensky asks, he asks that for a reason. They're not eternal. And those are basically the three things that he just said. That every war requires the ammunition, the armory, and the people. But as he also mentioned, what we have enough of is, of course, the belief. And he personally believes in that, and hopefully every Ukrainian believes in that. Every square meter of the territory that belongs to Ukraine will eventually be recaptured. Напомню, что ты там.
Ну, это каждая армия, получается, три категории просят.
The example of even Serbia, as far as he remembers, and Syria wars, the most recent on his memory, that also was of the same magnitude, where those countries also requested for assistance from external sources, from so-called allies, etc. That's also what Ukraine and Zelensky in particular is doing, and it's greatly relevant. And in the same manner that Ukraine is thankful for the United States and all the other countries that provided us with support, in the same way he thanks, well, me for some reason, and Ben for providing the assistance in order for him to both individually and in his squads to conduct the work in order to bring this belief that he talked about into life.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Alexander. for helping defend Ukraine.
And he also
Thank you.
said that you have a great shirt.
Yeah.
I'm wearing my
Thank-
Ukraine shirt
Uh,
for those who can't see us.
You're an excellent interviewer, excellent. I've known this
Oh.
for many years, yeah.
Well, I was thrown off a little bit.
Yes, and
Thank you.
shocked, and surprised, we, yeah, but this you can.
These are- These are three men, each in their own way. It's giving a really incredible boost for our fighters and our people in Ukraine. And I really appreciate each and every one of you. And Alexander, I hope you can stay safe and stay strong. And hopefully maybe I can meet you when I'm there in November if I ever get there.
You will.
Justin, Ben,
Agreed.
and Alexander, thank you all so much for joining us today. Please follow us on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. This is Roberto for Global Chat saying thank you for listening and ciao. Slava Ukraini.
Героям слава.
Yeah, bye-bye.
Glory to
Thank you all
Ukraine.
so much.